In this video, we're gonna focus on making this main menu widget. As you can see, it consists of different tabs. For example, you can press on settings and you will be able to see them. And by the way, we'll be adding more settings in the next video. So in the game panel, you can press play and you will be able to play the game. So let's jump to the code and see how it was made. Let's start with button widgets. First of all, I have a simple game button. It's a user widget, and here I have two forward declarations. One U button and another one is U text block. Inside public section, I have one getter function called getButton. Then inside protected section, I have native preconstruct. This is a new function and I'll briefly show you why we need this. Then I have a TObject pointer for button and TObject pointer for text block. Then I have edit anywhere property called button text. Inside CPP file, I check if button text block is valid, then I try to set this button text to this text block. And inside getter function, I simply return this button. And now why we are using this preconstruct. The reason for this is that we want to use it in editor and see our values updated. For example, here I have this button and it has this tab button text. It's actually a tab button widget, but it also has this native preconstruct, so it has the similar logic. So here I can type test and the text will be immediately updated after I do it. For this game button, I created one widget blueprint called apply settings button. I set preview mode to desired, use size box as a root and set mean desired width to 200 and mean desired height to 60. Then I have a button here and the only thing I changed was the style. I used tButton11 as a normal texture and I also disabled outline. Then inside hovered and pressed I did the same but selected different image. This time it was t_button16. Then I have a text block and here I set font size to 24. And that was it, and now you can click on this and change text to some and you will be able to see that it was updated like I already shown you. Now we can revert it and save. Let's take a look at tab button widget now. It also has two forward declarations and then I created a dynamic multicast delegate with one parameter. Then inside public section I use this delegate, added setup button function, select tab button and deselect tab button functions. Inside protected section I have native preconstruct, native construct and native destruct. Then I have two blueprint implementable events, one on tab button selected and another one is on tab button deselected. We're gonna use this for setting some custom styles for buttons in widget blueprint. Then I have the object pointer for tab button, another pointer for tab button text block, and edit anywhere your property tab button text. Inside private I have a tab on tab button clicked callback, button index variable, and is selected variable. Inside CPP class I have two includes. In native preconstruct I did very similar thing that we did in game button. In native construct I bind on tab button click to on click delegate, and in native destruct I unbind this button clicked function. Then in setup button I set button index to provided index. In select tab button I set b is selected to true and call on tab button selected. In deselect I set this variable to false and call on tab button deselected. And inside on tab button click callback function I check if we can broadcast the delegate and then I broadcast it. For this game tab button I also created a widget blueprint called main menu tab button. This widget blueprint is very similar to apply settings button. It also has a display mode set to desired. It also uses size box as a root with same parameters. The only difference that I used different style for button. Hover, normal and press all use the same textures because we're gonna modify the text color. So inside graph I have event on tab button selected, this one that is blueprint implementable, and inside selected I set tab button text block to this green value, and on tab button deselected, I set it back to white. So now when we press on this tab button, font color will be updated. Here we have a main menu widget. It has 4 forward declaration, 1 for widgets feature, 1 for tab button widget, and 1 for horizontal box, and finally 1 for named slot. And widgets feature and named slot are new thing for you. So let me briefly show you why we use it. First of all, we have a main menu switcher, and this is a widget switcher, and it activates its children based on the index. So if we set 0 as index, this child will be visible. If we set 1 index, this child will be visible. That's actually the reason why we used dynamic delegate inside these tab buttons, because when we click on game, 0 index will be sent to this widget, and when we click on settings, 1 index will be set to this main menu switcher. Then we have this named slot. This is a simple slot, it doesn't have any widget inside it, and it's used as a placeholder for any widgets because we can put stuff in this named slot. When we press play and open this main menu, you can see that game panel doesn't put anything inside this named slot, but when we click on settings, it actually injects this apply button. So now let's get back to the code. And under protected section, I have native construct and native destruct. Then I have a T object pointer for main menu switcher, T object pointer for tab buttons box, and T object pointer for this panel buttons named slot. Then inside private section, I have a function called on menu tab button clicked, then another function called change panel buttons widget, and a TRA for menu tab buttons. So inside CPP file, I have all required includes, and inside native construct, I check if tab button box is valid. Then I iterate over all its children and try to cast it to tab button widget. If it was successful, I set button index to I, and I bind on menu tab button click to on tab button click handler. Then I add this button to menu tab buttons, and then if it's all menu tab buttons is count is greater than 0, I select the first tab by default. Inside native destruct, I unbind this function from this handler. Then I empty this array. Inside this callback function, I also check if main menu switcher is valid, and only then I try to iterate over all main menu tab buttons and check if index is equal to I, and only then I select this tab button, and otherwise I deselect tab buttons and set active widget index for this main menu switcher based on this input parameter. Then I call this change panel buttons widget. Inside this I check if button named slot is valid, then I clear all children inside this named slot, and then I get active panel from this main menu switcher. And here I check if it's a valid panel. I try to check if this panel implements this interface. This interface is a new interface, and it has only one Blueprint native event function that returns a pointer for the widget. So that's how actually this settings panel provide this widget, because it returns a pointer to this created widget. So this main menu tries to check if panel implements this interface, then tries to get a widget from this function, and if it's a valid widget, it puts it inside panel buttons name slot. And I actually realized that we don't really need this clear children here, so we can safely remove it, and the logic should be the same. And that's all what I did inside main menu widget. Let's take a look at main menu widget blueprint. This is the most complicated widget we've got so far. So I started with having an overlay as a root overlay, then I've added background blur with strength set to 3. Then I have another overlay called panel overlay, and I center it horizontally and vertically. Then I have an image, and as image I selected t underscore main panel 01, and I set its size to 1200 by 800. Then I have a horizontal box called tab buttons box. I set 45 as top padding, and I set horizontal alignment to center. Then I added two main menu tab buttons. To do it, you can actually select your widgets in palette. So here I typed WBP main menu tab button, and I simply drag it here, so like this. The game button doesn't have any padding, it just has button text. Then settings buttons has actually left padding set to 40. Then I have a text block for asteroid game title. I also set padding to 4 to top, and also set font size to 24, yeah. Then I have a vertical box. This time I expanded it horizontally and vertically. Then I set 35 to left padding, 120 to top, 30 to right, and 25 to bottom. Then I have main menu widget switcher. It's simply widget switcher. Here I set 10 to all paddings, and I actually pressed fill here. If we set auto, it will occupy only the size it needs, but I actually would like it to occupy all available space. And this widget switcher has another overlay. It's his first child. It has size box for the button, and it's simply a play button with this tagging. And actually it also has best score text block, so I also set center to horizontal alignment, set 29 to top padding, and I believe that's all. Yes, then we have another child. It's actually a separate widget. We'll be taking a look at it soon, so it's just a setting panel. Because actually setting was done as a separate widget because we don't really wanna do all the setup here because it feels like a different widget. And finally, I have an overlay for this bottom panel. It has this named slot, and actually this overlay has auto size because we don't wanna expand it, because if we select fill like we did with menu switcher, they will have equal size, and we don't really want it. We prefer it like this. And finally, I have a size box with a button as for quit button. And inside graph, I have this logic. First of all, in event construct, I get game instance and cast it to our asteroid game instance. Then I get or load asteroid save data, and then I display the save data as text here. I also added blueprint read-only tag for player best score, so we can use it inside our main menu blueprint. Then I have on clicked play button, so for this I selected this play button, checked is variable, and created this on clicked callback. Here I just get on player, set input mode to game only, hide mouse cursor, and call open level by object reference, and this time I select our L underscore main. And this actually we don't need this, it was done for some internal testing. Okay, and that's all the logic we have inside our widget blueprint. Finally, we can take a look at our last widget, settings panel widget. First of all, it has an include for our created main menu panel interface. Then it has two for declaration, one for U combo box string and second for U game button. As you can see, it implements this interface, and inside public section it overrides this interface function. Then inside protected section we have native construct and native destruct, a T object pointer for resolutions combo box, and a T subclass of game button. Then in private section we have U function called on settings applied clicked, then two functions create apply settings widget and set up current settings. Then I have a T object pointer for U game button called apply settings button. Inside CPP file I have all required includes, and the native construct we call create apply settings, which actually simply checks if game button class is valid, then it tries to create a game button from this class, and then if it's a valid widget, we get button and add this on setting applied clicked to this on click delegate, and this function will be implemented in the next video. Then setup current settings is actually a brief overview of what we're gonna do in the next video. We get user settings. Game user settings is Unreal Engine settings class. Here you can find all settings we would like to see in our game. Then I get current resolution and get all supported full screen resolutions. Then I clear options for resolutions combo box, and then I iterate over all supported resolutions and add this resolution as a combo box option here. Then I check if resolution equals current resolution, and if that's the case, I set selected index to I. And inside interface function, I return this apply settings button. And that's all the code we have for now. Settings widget has the following structure. It's a simple vertical box containing all the elements. First one is text block, then I have a spacer, then another text block, and a horizontal box with these elements. Resolutions combo box wrapped with size box, then spacer, and checkbox. Default Unreal Engine checkbox is very ugly, so luckily we were provided with an icon for this. So for unchecked, unchecked hovered, and unchecked pressed, I used T_switch03. And for checked, checked hovered, and checked pressed, I used T_switch04. And that's all what we have for now. We're gonna fill it in the next video. And as a final step, I opened BP Player and set escape widget class to main menu, so we can press escape and test this widget. In the next video, we're gonna create a separate scene for this main menu, and we're also gonna populate the settings menu.